Welcome to Sex is Medicine, your number one resource for holistic sex education. I'm Devi Erickson, and I invite you to join me every week for another enriching and powerful conversation about the intersection of sexuality, spirituality, pleasure, and personal growth. Each episode of Sex is Medicine is dedicated to awakening your heart and mind to the true purpose and power of human sexuality. Please join me on this journey of self-discovery as we explore the art of using pleasure as medicine to awaken, heal, and empower every area of your life. Sex is Medicine broadcasts every Thursday at 7 p.m. Pacific on Contact Talk Radio Network. You can listen to the replay and subscribe to Sex is Medicine on Spotify, Stitcher, TuneIn, iTunes, iHeartRadio, and YouTube. And now get ready for another episode of Sex is Medicine. Hey everybody, welcome to Sex is Medicine, your number one resource for holistic sex education. I am Devi Erickson, and I am so delighted to have you with us here again for another juicy and delicious episode of Sex is Medicine, where we discover and explore how we can integrate our sexuality, our spirituality, and our personal growth. And once again, I want to give a shout out to the ASEC board, who did nominate and choose Sex is Medicine for their 2021 live web series. So honored, so grateful to have that acknowledgement in this field. So thank you to everyone who voted. This evening, I am so excited to share with you Renée Yvonne. Did I pronounce that right? Yes. Okay. Yes. Beautiful. And I am so excited because I was floating around on Twitter and I see this beautiful woman who is Renée talking about Gen X sex. And I was like, what? I'm a Gen Xer. I didn't know there was anyone who specialized in Gen X sex. Like, I need to know this person. I need to know what she's all about. And I love so much of what you share publicly on social media and just your passion for supporting those of us Gen Xers who are now middle-aged. Proud of it too. I was going to say I'm sad, but no, it's nothing to be sad about. We're loud and proud. We're middle-aged Gen Xers. And because of this, we have unique concerns when it comes to sexuality. So I wanted to bring you on, Renée, because this is your niche, this is your speciality, and educate all of us Gen Xers about how we can have an even more fulfilling, healthy, and enriching sexual experience. So I'll start with how did you get into the field of sexology? You're a clinical sexologist. That's impressive and amazing. How did this happen?
Oh my gosh. Such a long and twisty road, but I remember as a teenager. So I went to Catholic school.
Wait, you what? You went to Catholic school?
I went to Catholic school.
Wow!
So that says a lot, right?
Wow!
So I remember learning. I remember one of the first things I remember learning at Catholic school was that if you masturbate, you will go blind. That was one of the first things they taught us, and I thought, I'm going to go home and see if that's true. And so,
I'm about to test you.
And I was a good student, but I was the student who in religion class was always like, so why do how come, what? I was that kid because things just didn't make sense. So I remember thinking sometime in my teens that I wanted to be a sex therapist, but I didn't really know what that meant. I just knew that there must be something really powerful in it because nobody wanted us to have it. And they were telling us things that didn't make any sense. So, but I went to college. I majored in chemistry and minored in physics. And I just took a whole different path. But a few years ago, I was looking at taking a different job. I work in transportation, and I was thinking about doing another job. And one of my friends said, Renée, what do you really want to do? Like, if you could just do anything. And I said, without thinking, I said, I've always wanted to be a sex therapist, but I do not want to go back to school. I am sick of school. Yeah. And she said, there has to be a program that doesn't, require you to go back to school. So I started looking around. I found one. I went back, did a 2-year program with Sex Coach U. I loved it. And when I finished, I was kind of like, this is awesome. I learned a lot. What do I do next? And I was in the shower one day. I'd been in a relationship that was, we just weren't having sex a lot at all. It would be defined as a sexless relationship. And women tend to not talk about that. Like a man will maybe just go get it somewhere else. But women are kind of like, what's wrong with me? Why doesn't he want me? Like, we're questioning it. And I started doing that in that relationship. And it was at the same time when I started thinking about doing this course. So it all just kind of worked together. And I found that these other women were also in sexless relationships and talking to me and asking me questions about it. And it just kind of all flowed together. When I came out and I was thinking, what do I do with this? I was in the shower one day and I thought, I can be the Jin Sexologist. Like it just, I don't so I got out of the shower to write that down. I was like, let me write this down right now before I forget. But it dawned on me that I had these, I had people that were asking me these questions that were my age. There were guys that I knew who were dealing with high blood pressure or diabetes. They were dealing with erectile dysfunction. And all these things were happening to us at this age that no one was talking about. And everything was just shameful. It was like, I don't want to tell them I can't get an erection. I don't want to tell this person I can't have an orgasm. I don't even know how to have an orgasm. I've never squirted. Like everyone was talking to me in secret. Yeah. And I just want to bring it out in the open. Sex is natural. It's a big part of who we are. And we need to just normalize it. Like we talk about our jobs and Netflix. Like, I don't know why we're not doing that, because we're all walking around, trying to figure things out, but we're not telling anybody about it. And so it stays hidden and we don't fix the problem. And then the problem gets worse, and it doesn't have to be that way. So I want to be the person that people talk to.
Amen. I love it. And yeah, that cloud of shame that we live under in terms of our sexuality, and then that secrecy, right? So we're afraid to talk about it. So then we think we're the only ones. Yes. Like that was one of the biggest revelations for me when I started learning about sexuality. And then like through the last 13 years of teaching it, is we always think that we're the only ones who has the problem, and everybody else is having like their sex life is off the hook. They're having a great time. But the rest of us are like, our vaginas are broken. We're peeing when we sneeze. Like all this stuff is happening. and
no one's telling us this.
Right, as opposed to understanding that it's just normal. So I love that. So you have honored us and graced us today with 7 specific questions, 7 specific issues in terms of Gen X sex. So let's just go through those point by point and dig into each one as we go. Does that sound fun?
That sounds fun. I love it.
So the first thing that you brought up was sexless marriage or a sexless relationship. Mm-hmm. So let's define what that looks like, because there's a lot of, there's misperceptions around how much sex you should be having in a relationship and how much sex it's like, oh, if you're not having sex like every day, is there something wrong? Or, if you're having sex once every 2 weeks, is that okay? So from your expert view, what defines a sexless relationship?
Okay, this is a great question. So a lot of people ask this question, and the reality is we shouldn't be comparing ourselves to anybody. Comparison is the enemy of happiness. And so for some people, not having sex in a relationship and having a relationship is perfectly normal and it is fine. For other people, they're like, we had sex at 6. I'm trying to see when we're having sex at 8. And that's and that's normal for them. And there's nothing wrong with that. And most of us fall somewhere in between. So, but the sexless relationship is defined as having sex 10 or fewer times per year. So like once every 6 weeks or so. Mm-hmm. This can be for a variety of reasons. And so when I'm working with people, what I'm often trying to find out is get to the root of what's going on. Is it stress related? Is there an illness of some sort that's going on? Is there medication involved? Because sometimes the side effects of a medication can cause people to not want to have sex. It could be they're just tired. Like sometimes we're older, and as much as I don't like to admit that, sometimes you're just tired. There could be pain involved. A lot of us have lower back pain or some other pain from whatever, sports, injuries, the military, whatever. There could be some type of injury going on that causes that kind of discomfort. There could be some type of vaginal pain that's going on for people with vulvas. So there's a lot of things that can be happening that causes a sexless relationship to happen. one of the biggest things to do in that situation is to not blame your partner. And so, because that just causes the resentment. Like people are like, you don't want to have sex with me. Oh, you know, you're doing that back and forth. And it may not be any of that, but you do need to talk about it. There needs to be a way for you to sit down and have that conversation with them and find out what's really going on. Because let's say they did lose their job. It's COVID. They lose their job. They're just not feeling sexual for for whatever reason. They're stressed about money or insurance or the kids or the house, how are you going to pay the bills? And that just, all of those things do not feel sexy. Like there's nothing sexy about that. You could be, some things are just like, I was working with one couple and they were telling me that, like she said, you can't see it now, but this room is a mess. And she said, there's nothing sexy about this. Yeah. So sometimes it's just cleaning up the area and the space and making it more inviting. And, they talk about not having your TV in your bedroom and not having electronics in your bedroom, because all of those things are distracting. And that makes, it just makes you go, oh, I got to get these taxes done. You don't feel like having sex when you got to do taxes. Like there's nothing sexy about that either. So those kind of things can lead to a sexless relationship. But again, we need to talk about it and find out what's going on. How do I bring this up with my partner and say, what's happening, so that we can work through whatever the issue is. It could be emotional, it could be physical, it could be medical. And you can work through those things with them or with a sex coach like myself, if that's something that you see that needs to be done in order to get back to wherever it is or get to wherever it is you want to be.
Yeah. So, and it's what's coming to mind as you're speaking is there's so much of our personal hurt feelings involved. Like if a partner is rejecting us, or we're, quote unquote, not wanting to have sex, but our partner interprets that as rejection. Right. Mm-hmm. So there's such potential for this wounding and this heartbreak. Yeah. And so having a conversation of just checking in, hey, I've noticed that we haven't made love in a while. What's going on? It seems like that conversation would be really supported by having a sex coach or a mediator or somebody there to hold the space so that it doesn't devolve, the conversation doesn't devolve into or begin to feel like a personal attack.
Yes.
Right? Because there is so much pain and so much room for misinterpretation.
Yes, very true. And sometimes you do need somebody to hold that space, because you just need that person to listen. Yeah. And you may be afraid to just say it could be anything, like a close relative passed away. I didn't realize I was depressed. I may not even realize that this much time had gone by and we hadn't had sex. Yeah. I'm just in a space where I'm just trying to mourn this person, but you haven't really conveyed that to your partner, because you just assume your partner knows, right? My grandmother died. I'm not trying to have sex with you, but they're not getting that. They may not be realizing that. And so having that conversation really helps to bring that intimacy back. And sometimes what I tell couples too, when they're in a sexless relationship, is not to focus on the orgasm. Like sometimes we're so focused, especially in a heterosexual relationship, on penis and vagina sex. And we're not thinking about the other ways that we can connect and be intimate. And so there could be just kissing and heavy petting and hand holding. There's Tantra, which I cannot wait. I was just telling you, can't wait to have you on our show to talk more about Tantra, because there's so many things like that couples could be doing to be closer that don't involve penis and vagina sex.
Amen. Yes. So that was a huge revelation. So those of us who are sex educators, we know that, and applying it to our real life is a whole other thing. So in my current marriage with my husband, really opening up both of our minds to celebrate all the myriad ways that we express intimacy and sexual intimacy. Just walking by each other in the hallway and just giving each other a little grab or a nudge or a hug or a snuggle in the kitchen or something like that. All of that is a way of exchanging the sexual energy and the sexual intimacy and cultivating it throughout the day, and not just in the bedroom or the bathroom or the whatever,
Yes. So that's so important. And I think people forget that. They think about it as there's foreplay, and then there's sex, and then there's the rest of the day. But they're not.
All of that fits in a nice box, and then there's life, and sex is here and life is here.
Yes. And they're not thinking about how do I incorporate that throughout the day to make it, to make it a part? This is just a part of our lives. Sexuality is a part of your life. It's like you said, it's the nudge of the day. It's the text message that says, I can't wait to see you. It's, even scheduling sex. I've told, sometimes couples that are in sexless relationships have just grown apart in some way. They've just gotten busy and just like forgotten, and months have gone by. And sometimes you just need to schedule it. Like even that can be sexy. People don't think it is, but I'm like, think about if you're going to have sex at 9:00. It's like a date. Like, when you've met that person and you're like, I know I'm giving them some when I see them.
So we're excited we're having dinner and then we're going back to bed.
You're excited. You got new underwear on. You want a new bra. You shaved. You've done all this stuff. So all of that can be really sexy and get you excited and prepped for the events, if you will. But I mean, it's all part of that just goes into having a fulfilling sex life. Even if you're in this sexless relationship, you can still revive it if that's what the couple wants to do.
Exactly. If that's what you both want to do and are in agreement about that. And then of course it depends on the reason for the sexless marriage. But I love that we again, there's an assumption that, it's sexless because we don't love each other. No, sometimes it's sexless because life is hard.
It's literally just life. It's just kids, it's parents. I mean, we're at that age where we have aging parents, and some of us may still have kids in the house. Yes. That is stressful. You've got 3 generations of people that you're dealing with, and they're all like grabbing at you. At the end of the day, you're like, I'm laying down, like I'm laying down alone.
Exactly. And that's where the scheduling sex comes in. I know for me, or scheduling intimacy, I like to say, because I know for me exactly what you're talking about. When you're particularly as vulva owners, we tend to be the caregivers, right? And so if you've got kids at home and elderly parents that you're caring for and a job and blah, 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 it's overwhelming. So that scheduling the time to carving out the time for intimate connection, you can say no to everybody else and just prepare our minds for this, this self-care essentially. Yes.
And you need to do that. Yeah. Absolutely need to do that.
So then point number 2, medications, how to handle the side effects of medication and health issues. So those can be reasons that we're in a sexless relationship because of our medication or because of an illness or an injury. So how do we navigate that? How do we deal with that?
So this is the one, and this is probably the one that kind of, along with being in the sexless relationship, that kind of pushed me into looking into this more, was because I was talking to guys, or I would hear a woman talk about a guy who they were dating who had erectile dysfunction of some sort due to either the health concern or the side effect of the medication. And so I started looking into that more because I found that interesting, again, because no one's talking about it. It's just kind of like they give you the medicine, you go home, you realize that you can't get an erection, and now you're just frustrated with life, right? And so, so some of it, of course, for a lot of people, it can be diet and exercise can correct some of those things. For some people, for penis owners, they may want to try a penis pump that can help. There's penile injections, which sound painful to me without a penis, but I hear that they work really well. You usually have to go to a special pharmacist. I actually used to work with pharmacists that did this. They're called compounding pharmacists, and they'll make up a I hate to call it a concoction, but that's the worst word for it. But it's a group of bunch of solutions that they'll make up that help with blood flow and getting the blood flow there. And the nice part is that it doesn't interfere with anything else because you're injecting it directly to the penis, but it works amazingly well for a lot of men who do have erectile dysfunction issues. But for a lot of it, it really is, it's some of it, like for depression medication, you really will have to talk with your doctor about that. Like, is there a way to taper off? Can you take it every other day? You'll have to have that kind of discussion. That's not something I can tell people what to do or not. However, I will say this. I was dating someone who was on a depression medication and who told me that his psychiatrist told him, if I could get all of my patients to just exercise 45 minutes a day, I could take them all off of medication.
Wow. Well, I mean, exercise balances hormones and brain chemistry and all of that. So, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought that was fascinating that, that one, he admitted it, but two, that two, he said that to him. And so, but that it can help with that. Clearly that doesn't help his business, but I thought that it was interesting that he would say that to people and just say that that's what they need is more exercise to help with the dopamine, serotonin levels, and that they can help people with that. And then if you take them off the meds, because that's the side effect, the problem is that the meds create this low libido where they just kind of don't care.
Yeah.
And for a partner, that's really tough because if you have someone who is, say, who's bipolar or who has depression, and you're dealing with, do I deal with the mood swing, but we have great sex, or do I deal with, we have no sex, but their mood swings are evened out? That is a really tough choice to make. It's like having to go into the pharmacy and spend a lot of money and say, do I eat or pay my mortgage? It's kind of like, what do I do? And so, so a lot of people will choose to just figure out, I want them even. I want their moods to not be all over the place. So I'll deal with that part in the medication and the lack of libido. But then you're back to the sexless relationship, right? And so now we have to look at how can we make that work. And so that could be Tantra. It could be bringing in like scheduling it. Like, can we schedule this so that we, at least, we're having sex, we're being intimate. Can we find other non-penetrative ways to have sex if the problem is getting the erection? People can also try, like, for some guys, for some people with penises, one of the things they can also do is try a cock ring. And so that'll help to, get the blood flow there, keep the erection, and then they can still have sex. They have vibrating cock rings. They have, just the rubber ones. And those are always something nice to try, even if if you've never done it, but it's a way to keep that erection going. And so I try to recommend those things to people because I realize this is something, again, that we, you start to face sometimes in our age group. And, and for a lot of men, because that so much of who they are sometimes is wrapped up in the penis and erection, this can be devastating. Like, they just kind of give up. And it's really disheartening to see. And it's like, it doesn't have to be this way, but you have to talk about it. Like, I can't guess it. Like, you have to be able to talk about it with somebody so that they can get you the help that you need.
I think so often that so much of what we struggle with in the Western society around sex is simply our ideas about what it should look like and how it should be. And the libido conversation is an interesting one because I know pertaining to Gen X, right? So when I was in my 20s and 30s, I experienced my libido like an itch that I needed to scratch, right? I was like, I need to fuck. Right? Whereas now, as I turn into middle age, there's less of that itch that I need to scratch. And my motivation for sexual intimacy is for connection. It's more, and like I do still want to fuck. And at the same time, that's not always necessarily the burning desire. And so there may be times when I choose to make love and I'm not being led by my libido, I'm being led by a desire for connection. And so just as you're talking about like the issue with the medication and, the serotonin things that go on with that and the lack of libido, sometimes just a shift in perspective of like, oh, we're going to be physically intimate to enhance our connection, not because I want to get off, not because I have an itch to scratch like it used to be in my 20s, but because I want to connect with this person that I love and share intimacy and pleasure.
Yes, I totally agree. And there's one of the things I'm working on this summer is teaching. There's 2 classes I'm working on, and one is cock worshiping, and the other one is the pussy pleasure class. And so it's all about just touch. It's not about orgasm, and it's about really connecting with that person. And so a lot of people will find that when they do it, like I've talked to guys about, and they're just like, oh, it's a hand job. I'm like, it is not a hand job.
It's a hand job 2.0. You just wait.
Yes, you just wait. And so, but it's really designed to relax the person. And so this is also something that I like to talk about when erections are a problem because a lot, what's happened in society is we think we can just throw a drug at everything. And so people are like, oh, I can't get an erection, Viagra. But I'm like, that doesn't help with desire. That helps with erection. But if you don't want to have sex, that's not going to help. And so, so in this case, I talk about doing the cock worshiping and having the partner do that to the penis owner because it relaxes them. There's no expectation of having an orgasm or ejaculation. There's no expectation of getting hard. It's just designed to experience pleasure. And I think if we could take the concept of like there's a goal at the end of sex out of this, and like you said, just do it about the connection, the intimacy, we'll find that we'll experience a lot more pleasure in life, whether we have penis and vagina sex or not.
So tell me about these classes.
Yes,
I can feel everyone listening like, what's happening? What Cox worshiping? How do we do this? When is this happening?
So I'm hoping to put these out by the summer. I'm in the middle of some other stuff, and I'm like, I want to get these out by the middle of summer. So the cock worshiping class is just designed to show the how to pleasure a penis. Mm-hmm. And so there's about 20 different movements that you'll do with your hand all around with the penis, the scrotum, a little bit around the anus, the perineum, but it's all designed just for pleasure. The person just lays back, you get some coconut oil, a nice scent in the house, and you just work your hands, and it's magical to that person. And then the pussy pleasure class is the same for vulva owners. So again, the expectation is not to come, it's not to have sex, it's none of that. It's just to lay back and experience it. And I think for both people, those are things that don't happen to us often, because sometimes, especially like you said, in your 20s and 30s, and even probably now, because we got such horrible sex education, the idea is just like, okay, I'll kiss in these, I know these erogenous zones, boom, boom, boom. And then we're just, and we just did it, right?
Twist and turn, lick there. Okay, let's go.
Just go there, And then porn teaches us that if you show up with a pizza, the woman is hot already. And so,
well, I mean, I'm just saying, if you show up with sushi at my house.
So we learned that. And so, but most of us don't work that way. And so if we take the time to just really spend time just kind of looking at those body parts. Like a lot of women don't ever look at our parts. Yeah. And then in a lot of ways, social media and everything else has kind of shamed us about those parts. So we think everything is irregular and abnormal. We're trying to change it. We're doing vaginal rejuvenation. I don't even know what that is. Like, we're doing all these things to our body that we don't need to do because we've never really fully appreciated. And this is a chance for someone to appreciate it and for us to just lay back and have it appreciated. So
that sounds so healing. That
sounds it is
to the heart and the mind. Yeah. So website, so we can find out more.
Yes. So my website is the Jin Sexologist, is GenSexologist.com.
Wonderful. All right. So if people go to your website and sign up for your newsletter, will they get the announcement of your cock worship and pussy pleasure class? All right. You guys better sign up for that. That sounds amazing.
Yes. I will announce that.
So we've been talking about the side effects of medication and health issues. What is your view on menopause and decreased libido because of that? That's something that we're all going through. I was surprised by it. I was surprised when I went to my naturopath, and like a lot of what I was experiencing, she was like, "Oh yeah, that's perimenopause." I'm like, "Oh, it's normal? How interesting." I'm a sex educator, and I didn't know that something like, what was it? Like sweating at night was like normal perimenopause. And there was something else that I was just like, that's perimenopause? What are you talking about? So how do we deal with this new landscape that we find ourselves in?
I don't know. No.
Well, let's talk about it.
I'm literally hot right now. So yeah, menopause. So I'm going to just say this. So when we were talking earlier, I went to Catholic school. We got terrible sex education. One of the things that I was told when I was a kid was that you would get your monthly, no, it wasn't monthly. I would get a period. I thought it would happen once. No one told me that it was
You're like,
every
all right,
month
one and
for
done.
the rest of my life. And so I was telling my daughter the other day, I said, do you realize that the Israelites were out of Egypt and I'm still having a period at 41 years later? Like, I'm so sick of this. I'm just so sick of this. And so I don't know when it's ending for me. I feel like it's just never going away. But menopause and perimenopause are real for women. There's usually night sweats or just sweats. There's the hot flashes where all of a sudden you just feel like, what is going on? No, everyone around you is wearing a coat and you're like opening windows and turning on the AC. I've been there, I've done that. There's or you wake up in the middle of the night, like your neck is hot, your sheets are wet, that kind of thing. There's vaginal dryness sometimes. There could be the mood swings or the irritability, though no one will admit that they have any of that, but there's that.
Irritable? Well. Who's irritable? What do you mean?
Yeah, no, who's irritable? Like, just open a window. No one will get hurt. So all of those things can happen during menopause. And usually what's happening in menopause is that your estrogen is decreasing, your testosterone is often increasing. And so sometimes you'll see like the whisker on the hair in places that you're just like, why is there hair there? And why is it gray? And why is it disrespectful and growing like straight out? Like this is just wrong. And so you find that those things are happening. So usually in a case like that, there's a couple of things that you can do. One, the first one I would suggest, this is my number one suggestion, and you go to a naturopath, which is awesome. They're really hard to find here on the East Coast, but to go to a naturopath and get a compounding pharmacist to do your hormone profile and find out where you are. They can then walk you through the process of getting natural hormones to balance everything out, and you will feel so much better. Like the night sweats will stop. You'll get the vaginal lubrication back. It'll just feel so much better to do that. That's the number one thing I would suggest. Number two is you can do a cooling herb vaginal steam. And I've been trying this out. My daughter is actually she went through a class, and I'm trying to think if I heard it on your show, if you interviewed Steamy Chick.
Yeah, Steamy. No, who did I? Tracy Bryant, who makes. She's got a school for vaginal steaming, and she's got the sweet yoni tea.
Yes, that's who it was.
But
yes.
She's the queen of V-steam. That's what she calls herself. She was like one of the originators of it, the popularity of it in North America. She's a powerhouse.
She is. Yes, I have her. I love her steams. But my daughter went through a class with Steamy Chick and became a certified vaginal steam person. I know it's a term for it. I don't know what it is.
We need support for this. We need
support for this. And I'm actually going to interview her for my podcast. So I'm going to have her on Sunday. She's going to air on Sunday. I'm going to have her on to talk about what herbs you use. But I love vaginal steaming. I found out about it, 7-8 years ago. And I started doing it because I was having a really bad menstrual cramps. And I heard about it. I thought, I'll try just steam. What could it hurt? And it really did make a difference. And so then I started telling other people about it. And I told my daughter because she too was having really bad menstrual cramps, and she read up on it, went through the class. I was like, oh, okay. she really believes in it. So I want her to talk about, she's clearly not going through menopause, but I want her to talk about what some of the herbs are and how they work, and the cooling herbs and how they help with menopause. The other thing, like with menopause, if you're just feeling dry, the quick thing to do is just to use lube. So if you're about to have sex, I believe in lube. I think lube makes everything better. It helps make things slick and wet. And so there's no friction, because friction during penis and vagina sex is terrible.
Well, yeah, because
it feels like 1,000 knives when it's dry. So yeah, I'm a big believer in lube. And so those are things you can use. And then for men, a lot of people don't know about this, but men go through something similar. It's called Andropause, where their testosterone is lowered and they get a little bit more estrogen. And so you'll start to see like the man boobs and the pot belly. They start to be a little bit more, you'll notice guys like, why is he so sensitive? Like, what's going on? But a lot of that is because they're going through their own hormonal change. And so again, going to a naturopath or a compounding pharmacist, finding out what your base is, like what's going on. And then usually theirs can be fixed with just a little bit of testosterone treatment. And then they'll just, they'll be back to normal. So sometimes it really is something kind of super easy, but because we're not talking about it, we're just going through it. Just like, oh, this is, like doctors will just tell you you're getting old. And I'm like, okay, but is this normal? Like something being normal, it doesn't mean that it should be happening. Like what they're thinking is just like, oh yeah, this happens. Doesn't mean that I have to go through it.
And that's what I love about the Eastern approach to sexuality, because so much of what we in the West consider normal and just a part of the aging process in Eastern healing practices are like, no, those are actually signs of imbalance that can be corrected. And so with erectile dysfunction, we just accept in the West that it's normal for men to lose their erectile function. Well, Eastern practices like semen retention, learning how to separate orgasm from ejaculation, men can be having rock hard hard-ons into their 90s. Like it's a true thing. And women can have juicy, alive yonis into their 90s as well through doing things like yoni yoga and self-cultivation and all these practices that are very normal in these ancient healing traditions. But in the West, it's like you said, you want to throw the Western orientation is just throw a pill at it.
Throw a pill at it. Yeah. It's just a part of, you're just getting older. And I'm like, I don't think this shouldn't be just part of getting older.
Yeah. Like, why is life less pleasurable when we get older? Like the two don't have to be one and the same.
No. And it doesn't make sense. I'm like, I finally have time. I have money. And now,
exactly.
And now I can't get pleasure. Like what? When I was broke. This isn't right.
So this is why we have jobs, my friend.
Yes, like, this is not right.
So for many of us Gen Xers, we're on our second or third marriage potentially, or we're getting a divorce. We finally are like, we've evolved and our partners and us have evolved in different areas and different directions. And so maybe we're getting a divorce and we need to go back out in the dating field. So what is your view on us old folk? Us middle-aged folk getting back into the playing field, getting back into the dating world after a life transition, like a divorce or even death of a spouse.
Yeah, this can be really challenging, especially. So I'll start with death. I have not experienced this. Take your time. Like you don't feel like you need to rush back out there and find a partner after divorce or death. Actually, take your time. If you need to do therapy, do it. If you need to just take some time and be alone, do it. Because sometimes we've been living with somebody for decades and we haven't really figured out what we want or what we like. And so take that time to figure out what really makes you happy and what pleases you. This is your opportunity to explore the things you want to do. Go back to school if that's what you want. Explore your body. What really feels good to you. And so it's masturbation month. I encourage people to touch themselves from head to toe and figure out what feels good to you. Because if you don't know, you can't explain that to anybody else. And then they're just like fumbling around, and that's not fun. that's fun.
Throwing
that's not
spaghetti at the wall.
Yeah. Yeah. And so take that time to do that. Once you get back out there, it seems like the thing to do is online dating. That seems to be like what everybody's doing, which is, and I've done it a lot. I bet, the person I'm dating now, I met online. So I meet people online all the time. But I think I always have it, the advice for people. So I've gone through people's profiles and helped them to like rewrite them. So when I talk to people, I'm like, if you're going to go out there, first, know what you want. Like, what are you looking for, really? Are you looking for a relationship? Are you looking for marriage? Are you looking to just date and have fun? You just want to go out? Are you polyamorous? Put those things out there so that people know and they're not confused. You're not out there like, oh, I'm trying to get married, but I'm in all these, I'm seeing all these different people. And so there's a mixed signal there. Or I want to see all these people, but they all want to get married to me. So make sure you know what it is you're looking for. You convey that to the people you're talking to. So communication is important. I think it's important to not just express what it is you're looking for, but also to just be honest. Like when you put your picture up, it is a picture of you, and there's a picture of a recent picture of you. So not your, not your high school picture from 1989, but your picture of 2020, 2021, 2019, like
what you look like now, not 40 years ago.
Yeah, we understand COVID has hurt a lot of us, but some actual pictures of who you are. And then talk about what you like be positive. I see so many profiles where people are just negative in their profile. They're just like, I don't want this. I don't want game players. I'm not looking for this. And I tell people, I said, let me tell you something. No one is looking at this profile and going, oh, yeah, I'm a game player. I think I'm gonna go ahead and hit her up. Or I'm not a game player. I think I'm they're not doing that. So you may as well just go ahead and say what you're looking for. I like to swim. I like to dance. I love to eat at, exotic restaurants. I like to travel. Tell people what you like. And then for the person who's looking for them, please read their profile. There's nothing more irritating than going through a profile and then someone asks you all the questions you already answered. I'm like, I've already told you that. So read through the profile, see what they're looking for. And I'm a big advocate, especially when it's online and you're meeting people, to meet within the first 2 weeks. I'm just like, let's just meet and do a coffee date. I'm a big fan of coffee dates. I'm a big fan of breakfast dates, because at breakfast, other than mimosas, most people aren't drinking at breakfast. And if it's not going well, you can eat eggs and bacon really fast and then go. There's no expectation. And you can make up a meeting. You're like, oh, I got something to do. And you can get out of there. It's really hard to do that at dinner. So
And dinner is muffin, so I can go real quick.
Let me get my muffin and I'm gonna go. So I'm a big fan of the breakfast date, the coffee date, the walk in the park. It doesn't have to be a lot of money. And really, it shouldn't, because you're trying to get to know each other. It's not a time that's just I'm just going to spend boatloads of money on this person. It's supposed to be a chance to get to know each other and talk, ask questions. It's not an inquisition, but get to know the person and see who they are, what they like. Do you feel a vibe? Is there a click? Do you feel anything, or is it just kind of like, this was nice, I could see them again, but if I don't, I'll live, I guess. Yeah. So I just try to encourage people to just kind of be open to the experience, to not put a lot of expectations into it, and to just go in. My expectation on a first date is to have fun. That's really all I'm looking to do. I'm not looking to get married. I'm not showing up in my wedding dress. I'm not, planning. I'm not like, he'll look really good next to, I'm not doing that. I'm just going, I just want to have fun. And if it goes somewhere, great. And if it doesn't, it's still great. I met somebody new. And every date we go on, I'd like to say this, every date we go on doesn't mean it's going to end up in marriage or end up in a relationship, or it could be a different type of relationship. This could be your friend. This could be a business partner. It could be somebody that's going to end up being with someone else that and you still have a relationship with them. So I think taking that expectation out that this person has to be for me and me only alleviates a lot of the pressure of going out on a date, especially if you do a coffee or a breakfast date, because you also haven't invested a lot of money in it. So
yeah, I love that low risk meeting, and I love that time frame of doing it within the first couple weeks. Because why fiddly fuck around? Why dilly dally?
Yeah, find out if it's what are you doing?
Yeah,
and we're older. That's I don't have when I was 20, I could do this for 4 months, but at 50, I'm like, are we meeting? I got stuff to do.
Got shit to do. Look,
I got stuff to do. So you got a 2-week window, and if we don't meet within 2 weeks, I'm like, okay, you're not interested. And it's okay. I'm not hurt by that, but I want things to move along. You're not getting anything extra necessarily by waiting a month or 2 months to just chit chat and text this person. Just meet them.
Yeah. And I haven't found that online dating, it was like a buffet, right? Of all these different options. And so that clarity of okay, this is what I'm looking for and this is what I want to receive. Because it's really easy when you've got all this energy coming at you. I found all this energy coming at me to get confused about wait, maybe I do want this thing over here. And wait, maybe I want that thing. All the sparkly, shiny objects.
Yes.
So
and it's so many.
That clarity is really, really important.
So many. Yeah. So that's what I would say, try online dating. I mean, of course, you can always meet people the traditional way. Like you might meet through friends, you might meet through work or through, where, your place of worship or something like that. You may be in a group, a meetup group. Like I would encourage people when we're out of COVID, but that was a great place to meet people too. You find people with like interests and you go, biking or kayaking or rock climbing, whatever it is you like to do. And you meet people that way. It's the same thing. Like you meet them, you go on a date, you talk, you get to know them. But it's just putting yourself out there if you're ready. And if you're not, then just be honest with that. Like if I remember when I first got divorced, I was in my 20s though, but I got divorced and I told guys, I was like, I am not in a space to date. Like I'll have sex with you, but I'm not.
I'll scratch that itch, but
I'm not in a space to date. Like if you're looking for a wife and somebody to bear some children, I'm not her. And I knew that. And so I was honest about that because I knew I wasn't in that place. So just be honest. If you've gone through a divorce, if you've gone through a recent death, I would say be honest with people. Like I want to go out. I want to spend time with people, but I'm really not in a space to cultivate a relationship. I'm not there, whatever that means for you. But be honest with people so that they can also make that decision for themselves, because they may say, me neither. I just want to spend time. I want a companion. And some people do. They're like, I just want somebody to go out with. I'm not looking for somebody to, do all these, to be in a relationship. But sometimes I want to go to dinner and I don't want to go alone. Would you go with me? Sometimes I want to go to a movie or a play. I've got tickets to something. I don't want to go alone. Would you go with me? But that doesn't mean that we're in this intimate bond relationship. Or it may be that, I'm looking for somebody to just have sex with.
Yeah, exactly.
And there are people that'll do that. If you're honest about it, people are like, yeah, I'm down with that. Oh, cool. Tuesday, good. All right. You come over for a couple of hours, go home. I'll see you in a couple of weeks. Bye.
Sex dates. Never underestimate the power of a sex date, boy. Those can be regenerative.
They can. So
yeah, wonderful.
I just say be honest with people.
I love that. So let's say we found a new person to play with, or maybe we've been playing with the same person for years and years and years. How do we introduce new things into the bedroom, trying new things with a partner? So whether it's a new partner or an old partner, we can run into some of the same issues of embarrassment, shame, trepidation, afraid of hurting people's feelings. So what are your thoughts around that? Trying new things with a partner?
Oh, this is such a great question. So I think, again, everything kind of goes back to communication. So one of the things I like to do is a love, fear, desire conversation. If you've been in a relationship for a while, this is a good one to do when you want to try something new. And so what you're going to do, and it's hard. I'm going to tell you that it's super simple, but it's so hard to do. So what you do is you sit with your partner face to face, and you tell them one thing that you fear. And then they say thank you, and you do the same to them. The hard part is not having the conversation, because what will happen is you'll say, well, I'm scared that you're going to leave me if we don't have sex. And they're like, I'm not going to do that. And it's like, no. You listen to them, you say thank you, they listen to you, and they say thank you, and you're done. And the next thing you say is, I desire. And then you tell them something that you'd like to try. So you may say, I really have been desiring to open up our relationship, or I've been really desiring to try BDSM with you. I've been really desiring to try this toy with you. They say thank you. They do the same thing to you. You say thank you. You don't have a discussion about this. This is not like, you ain't sticking that up my ass. None of that. It's none of that. None of that.
I get offended by the desires.
It's so hard to do this. And then the last one is, I love. And so then you tell the person something you love about them, and you end on that note. They say thank you. You say thank you. And then you sit with it. Again, you don't discuss it. You sit with it for a couple of days, and you can come back to it and talk about it. And so, and you can put a time period on, like, let's sit with this for tonight, and tomorrow evening we'll talk about it. And then you can really discuss it. So I like to do that exercise because, one, it's hard to do, but two, you find out a lot about your partner, because you may not have known that your partner wanted to do some things that you didn't think they were open to these things. And so that's one way to introduce something new. I would say never just like throw a toy in there. Like I've done that
How about this?
So we're using this tonight. You pull out the magic wand.
Who's the one I want to stick in your butt tonight?
This is right. So always have that conversation with your partner that you want to try a toy, see what they think. And it's sometimes hard for people with penises because they're thinking it's going to replace them. I'm not really sure where they get this from, but that seems to be a conversation that a lot of them have, like, oh, women use that and they don't need me. We shouldn't need toys in the bedroom. I'm like, no, toys are there to enhance. They're there to make things fun. They give you a break. If your tongue is tired, hand is tired, toy.
Exactly. You can watch her masturbate with it.
You can learn something. There's so much that you can do with these toys. So I'm a big fan of like talking about that and bringing toys in. I think with like polyamory, if you want to open up the relationship or you want to do BDSM, that you probably need to have a longer conversation about this to find out like what are the safe words? What do you want to try? Because there's so many variants in it. Like I think sometimes like when I first heard about BDSM, I'm thinking, okay, there's a ball gag in my mouth. Somebody's got me chained up to a wheel. They're flogging. Like I'm thinking of like this experience. Whereas it could be something as simple as some, a blindfold and just restraints for 10 minutes, and someone's just like kissing my body, but I can't move. So, just figuring out like where on the spectrum that person wants to be and what they want to try, and then having that conversation. So you can also do, and I have on my website, there's a list of how to talk to your partner about what you want in bed without hurting their feelings. And I have 5 different ways that you can do that. And one of them is a checklist that's called Yes, No, Maybe. And so you can do these individually, and it's a list of all kinds of things. And then you could just say, yeah, I'd like to try nipple clamps and a ball gag. Please don't put anything in my anus, or I'd like to try anal sex and, the ball gag. And, I want to try all of this, or no, I don't want to do any of this. And so you'll get to learn your partner, what they're interested in. Because when you exchange it, you might say, oh, I had no idea they were into that. Let me get online and order some stuff, so you can.
I love that. And that's on your website? Your website URL?
On my website too. Yep.
And your website URL again one more time?
It's the GenSexologist.com.
GenSexologist.com. Because that sounds amazing. That sounds like an amazing worksheet to do. It sounds fun. That's why it's amazing. It sounds so much fun and so clarifying, and such a like having some concrete tools to enter in this conversation. Because as you're talking, what's coming up for me is, having conversations about opening up the relationship and BDSM. Those are big topics. Those are heavy topics. And I honestly don't recommend just trying to go at it on your own. If you've never done this before and you just read an article in New York Times and you're like, oh, I might want to try that. Highly recommend that you do hire a sex coach who is a trained guide who can guide you through this process of how to do these things in a healthy way. Because like you said, when you first heard BDSM, what comes to mind is so different than the reality of it. And 50 Shades of Grey is not the good training manual for BDSM and kink. And so working with a professional who has expertise to support you in exploring these different avenues. Bringing a toy in the bedroom is a very different conversation than let's invite someone else to the bedroom.
Very different conversation. Yes, very different.
Well, unfortunately, we have to wrap up our show because our hour has flown by, as it does when we're having fun. So before we go, what is your podcast? Because you have a show too, and I'd love us all to listen to it.
I do. Thank you. So my podcast is the Jin Sexy Podcast. It's on Sunday mornings at 10, and you can find it on Overcast, Apple, it's everywhere. Anchor, Spotify, it's on all those channels. And like I said, it comes on Sundays at 10 is usually when I release them. And we've done all kinds of topics. We actually did one on polyamory a couple of weeks ago. That was fascinating. So it was one of my favorites. We've done one on adultery. We had a lady on who talked about what she learned from her husband's girlfriend.
Wow.
That was on. Yeah, that was really good. So we have some good guests on there. But it's all things that are around issues that pertain to things that we're going through as GenXers. So that's what the podcast is. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. So GenX Sex?
The Jin Sexy Podcast.
The Jin Sexy Podcast. Look it up on Spotify, and your website again, the Jin Sexologist.
Yep, the Jin Sexologist. And I'm the Jin Sexologist on Instagram. On Twitter, I'm just Jin Sexologist. The is too long, so it's just Jin Sexologist. And also on Facebook, I'm the Jin Sexologist.
Wonderful, wonderful. So following you on all those amazing platforms. Well, thank you so much. It has been such a joy and a delight to spend time with you.
It's been so great to be here. Thank you so much, Devi.
Yeah, my pleasure. My pleasure. As soon as I saw you on Twitter, I was like, I have to talk to that woman on my show.
I'm so glad. I'm so honored. I was so excited. I was like, oh my God, Devi Ward is following me.
Joyfully, happily. Right on. So thank you everyone for tuning in. Make sure you do go to her website, Renée Yvonne's website, to learn more. If you are like us, middle-aged Gen Xers, boy, there's some juicy goodness for you over there. Make sure you follow her on all of the social media platforms and continue to follow us at Authentic Tantra. Go to our website, authentictantra.com, and you can learn more about the Tibetan 5-element healing practices and how to apply them to your sexuality for the enrichment, activation, and realization of body, mind, spirit, and sex. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. It's such an honor and such a pleasure and such a joy to share these episodes with you every week on Sex is Medicine with Devi Ward Erickson. Have a beautiful night. You've been listening to Sex is Medicine with Devi Ward Erickson, your #1 resource for holistic sex education. You can listen to and subscribe to Sex is Medicine on Spotify, Stitcher, TuneIn, iTunes, iHeartRadio, and YouTube. Just search Sex is Medicine with Devi Ward. Stay connected with me and my guests on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Authentic Tantra, and learn how you can use Tantra as medicine to heal, awaken, and empower every area of your life at AuthenticTantra.com. Make sure to tune in to Sex is Medicine every Thursday at 7 p.m. Pacific on Contact Talk Radio Network, and join our watch party every Thursday evening on Facebook at Authentic Tantra. We look forward to you joining us next week for another episode of Sex is Medicine with Devi Ward.